Hi, thanks for joining us for the highlights of the 2026 Farm Credit Cow-Calf Survey. I'm Dave Weaber, Senior Research Analyst for Animal Protein with Terrain, and joining me is Joe Egan, our Relationship Manager from Northeast California and a cattle producer. The highlights of the report covered 28 states and 1,050 customer responses. So we had a great turnout. With the help of our 10 partnering associations, we found that about half of those surveyed in terms of producers were going to expand their cow herds in 2020, going into 2026. That expansion was mild, maybe moderate at best. Within the surveyed group, we found that about 60% of producers had used cows to grow their cow numbers, and about 40% were going to use heifers and a blend of cows with that. The average growth was about 13% in terms of the number of cows they bred during 2025, with about 30% of producers saying they would probably grow during 2026 and a similar number during 2027. When we look at the reasons why producers said they weren't growing, the responses were overwhelmingly towards grazing resources. Pasture conditions, availability for additional pasture, and weather forecasts were the top three ranking reasons why producers didn't grow. This was followed by labor availability, producer age, which in our survey was about 58 years, so folks getting close to retirement age. And then number 7 was the struggles we've seen during the fall of 2025 with the president coming out and saying beef prices were too high, and then changing tariff rates and tariff rate quotas for South American countries. So those are the highlights. We'd encourage you to read the report here at the NCBA website, or if you want further details, go to terrainag.com. Joe, do you have any questions or
Sure.
highlights?
Yeah, I do have questions, comments, and that kind of thing. But first of all, I just want to thank you guys at Terrain. Always appreciate the insights you provide, and frankly, amazed at your ability to, gather data for these kind of presentations. So anyway, thank you for that.
Oh, we're glad to do it.
Did have just one other question with regard to, and appreciate all the discussion there on herd retention or heifer retention, leading into herd building and that sort of thing. And, it kind of seems like, which I think is correct, the general thought is, with this cattle cycle, it'll peak at some point, whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But what, I think what a lot of guys are thinking of if they're looking at expanding or buying these bred cows, like what would be kind of a normal drop in the value of those cows after we hit the top of that cycle? Is it a 30%, 40%? I mean, I'm not asking you for a hard number, but what should guys be kind of thinking about there in terms of their own loan margin as it goes forward 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. So it's really a twofold piece, and really predicated on what calf values do, right? So if we look at that net present value of that cow's production, that's been the big swing factor of 2025. Is like we were on kind of a roller coaster. We were still going up on the chain, and then we fell off the backside for a minute, and then we made that first big rally back that we're in right now in the end of January. So those cow values have fluctuated with that calf price, and they tend to do that through the cycle as well. So as we turn over, if we look at cow values if we looked at cows that were bought today, they probably appreciate or at least hold their value for the next year or two, even as they become, if they were heifers, certainly as they become 3-year-old and 4-year-old cows, that pile of equity stays together pretty good. And then as we start to see those cows age out in terms of, maybe we find foot and leg problems or udders, or she doesn't rebreed, those kind of things, we'll start to see that turnover. I think probably a 30 or 35% decline in value over that kind of middle phase is probably a reasonable number. And then as you get towards the back end, it's probably somewhere in the 50 to 60% decline in value. And that's predicated on, the herd rebuild. If we don't see a very vigorous rebuild, That's a flatter kind of equation over time as you look at those equity positions going forward.
Great. Appreciate that.
To go with that, if we think back to the cows that gave everybody the heartburn of 2014 and 2015, you know, the way those cows made money is this last calf, and they were worth $2,000, $2,200 as a cull cow. So they were actually worth more as a cull cow in nominal dollars than they were when we bought them. Now the real dollars is a different story, but yeah, nominal dollars to dollars, they were worth more as cull cows. We would like to remind folks, if you need more of this type of analysis, please go to trainag.com or reach out to one of the train staff.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Joe.